Okay, well, let's get started slowly. Welcome to the spotlight session on quantitative text analysis with MAXDictio. Now, I hope you know what you signed up for. Quantitative text analysis is the analysis of more of a frequency-based and exploratory base of which type of words appear in the text, in which combination, which word appear more often in which documents, for example, and so on. And MAXDictio is a module in MAXDA, I would say, that's not available in all of the MAXDA versions. So I've prepared a little slide here. Maybe I should introduce myself. My name is Julia. I'm the product manager at MAXDA. Maybe you've seen me in the welcoming speech. Maybe you were in my session on the QT. And I look forward to talking to you about the MAXDictio module today. So sorry about forgetting that. Here's the overview of the 3 versions of MAXDA, because you can purchase MAXDA as Standard, as Plus, and as Analytics Pro. And as you can see from the little check marks, each module, each version has an additional module. So the second one on the bottom is the quantitative text analysis. Those are the features that we are going to talk about today. And they are available in MAXDA Plus and MAXDA Analytics Pro, but they are not available in MAXDA Standard. So if you're working with Standard and you can't find it, now you know the reason why. Okay, if you have MAXDictio, it's located in its own menu called MAXDictio at the very right of the main menu of MAXDA. And as you can see from the screenshot here, there's a lot of options and screenshots, and we'll go through them today, but they can be categorized into 3 maybe main types of features. We'll start with the word frequencies and combinations. So this is where we really look at which words appear the most often and which words appear the most often with which other words in a combination. So it's a really frequency-based look at the data. Then we have some tools that look at keywords in context. So you can look at a word, but then you get information about the context that this word appears in. So, well, you'll see, it's interesting. And then the last one is the maybe of the heart of Dictio, the most ambitious parts is the dictionary-based analysis. And dictionary means that you create your own dictionaries, you create groups of words that you're interested in, and then you can use them to analyze complete groups of your own dictionaries, see which group of words appears where, how often, and so on, and automatically code the data when you're done looking at the results. Okay, so this is the information up front, but we'll jump right into MAXDA and take a look at MAXDictio in this example project. This is my example project for the MAXDictio Spotlight session. You're probably familiar with the text examples that I have here. It's just a small collection of fairy tales from the Grimm's brothers, so Golden Bird, Hans and Luck, and as you can see, it's text. They're not that long. They're all kind of the same size. So we'll see which interesting features we can find in these texts. There's no code, so you can imagine you just started this project, you just imported the documents, and now we want to use MAXDictio to see what these texts are all about. So as I said, MAXDictio is located on the main menu. It's up here on the right. If you have Stats and Theme Cloud, it's this one. If you only have Plus, it will be the last one in your menu. If I click on it, all of these options open up. And we're going to start with the first section, the word frequencies. This is an option located here on the very left. And if I click on it, or if I hover over it, it tells you this feature will create a list with the words that appear in selected text. So if I click on it, a dialog will open up. That gives me a lot of options at exactly which words I want to take a look at. The first option up here is where I can limit or filter my data to just my activated documents. See, if I activate documents here, I could only take a look at this one, but I want to take a look at all of them as a starting point. Or if I had some retrieval and I wanted to look at the retrieval, I can also check this option up here. Maybe we should start by thinking about what does MAXDA think a word is, because we're asking a computer program to tell us which are the most frequent words. And as you can see here, there's a lot of things that you can tell MAXDA that are not words, or you can select down here, where does a word start and what's the end of a word? Basically, a word is a string of characters, any characters, followed in front and at the back with a space. So that's a word. At this point, I can already point out that for some languages, this is of course not true, like Japanese. That's why up here in the language options, you have the option to tell MAXDA that you're working with Japanese text, because then all of these rules do not apply. It's a completely different rules for the language. But we're working with English text right now, so we can just use the basic settings where you have a space, you have a specific number of characters, and then you have a space at the end. Now here you can tell MAXDA which type of words and character strings do you want to ignore. These can include hyperlinks, email addresses, anything followed by hashtags, numbers, of course, and text within brackets. Now you can see all of this is not really with fairy tales in mind, because there's no email addresses in the fairy tales. But if you had, for example, exported data from an internet forum, this would be very relevant to use these options, so that you don't have the most frequently used word be the internet address of the web page where you export the data from, for example. So these are all options here. I'm just going to leave them checked because they're not going to hurt my data at the moment. Then you have down here the box that tell you where does a word end. So which character tells MAXDA this is the end of a word. And you can see there's a pre-selection here, so that, for example, a brackets or a plus symbol, or that they're just not added to the word, because then sometimes you have a word in brackets and sometimes not, and it wouldn't be the same. So you can add your own if you have more characters that are relevant, or you can just leave them. These are predefined and will be included in your MAXDA out of the box. Then you can say, how many characters does the word have? Now for English, one would make sense because the word I only has one character, or A, but in Germany, like, as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm German, so for German language, this wouldn't make sense. So I would probably go for 3 as like one character is not a word in Germany, but in English it can be. So let's leave it like this. Then up here in the differentiation, I can tell MAXDA if I want to know the most frequent words across all of this data. So I do not want to make a difference between the documents, or what I am going to do now, I say I want to look at it by document. So tell me what the most frequent words are for each of the documents. And if you have groups or sets, you can also use these options on here to differentiate them in different ways. So now we have these settings, and then down here, I have 3 more settings to think about. I can apply a stopword list. A stopword list in MAXDA is a list of words that you want to exclude from your data analysis. So if you have words like on, a, the, off, just words that are not relevant to the context of your data, you can add them up here. If I click on this, the stopword list manager opens up, and I can see all of the excluded words that I have already added that I'm not interested. Like I have all of the languages, the numbers in here, for example. Don't know how fiddlesticks got in here. Let's remove fiddlesticks. That's an interesting word. You can create your own stopword list here by just saying new list and then adding your words. Or you can head over to the MAXDA website. In the manual, you'll find some stopword that you can use, a stopword list that you can download and then import into your MAXDA, so you don't have to create your own lists if you don't need to. Then I can say, do I want the words to be case sensitive or not? So if a word starts with an uppercase letter and then later on it starts with a lowercase letter, do I want MAXDictio to think those are different words or the same words? In my case, I would like to have them as the same words because I do not really care if they're at the beginning of a sentence or not. And you can lemmatize words. A lemmatization means that you can look at a word and MAXDictio will collect all of the lemmatas for this word. So let's say if I have work, I'm looking for work, MAXDictio will group together work, working, worked, works, and so on, and just say this many times, let's say 25 times that the word work appeared, but in reality, it looked at all of the different types and lemmatas of work. I'm just going to check this box so I can show you in the results what it looks like. And I promise we're not going to spend this much time on each of the dialogues because these options, you will see them reappear at the other features as well. So we'll click OK. And what happens is that the word frequency table opens up with my results. In this table, let me just make this bigger. Let me introduce you to all of the information in this table. I have 9 documents, and in these documents, I have 18,365 analyzed words. From those words, 707 are different words. So it means I have a type token ratio of 0.038. So about 4% of my words are different words, and the rest are all repeating words. But as you can see, I have the and so on in here, so that makes a lot of sense. Up here in the table, I have the word. I have the word length. As you can see here, in English, there's A and there's I that only have 1 characters. Then I have the frequency of the words. I can sort by frequency. I can sort by all of these columns. I can see how large of the percentage of my complete data corpus this word is. So this is 7%. And I have a rank. So this is a rank for the overall findings of these words. But then up here are my documents. Because as you remembered, I wanted to differentiate the result by document. So now I have a column for each of the document. And each of the document tells me how often this word appeared in this document. So let's look for something interesting. Let's say we have king. If I look at the word king, I can see, okay, it appears 61 times. It's overall ranked the 48th words in all of the document. It appears in 6 out of the 9 documents, so in 66.67%. And then I can see how often it appears in each of the fairy tales. And I can already see that it appears more often in the golden bird, and it doesn't appear at all in Hans im Lack. So now you have an insight into the most frequent words overall and in your documents. Up here are a lot of options. You can select columns to display or not display. You can search in these. You can add words to the stop list and so on, but you can explore these on your own time. Up here, I can change this from the frequencies to the ranks. So if I click on rank, I now, for each of the words up here, have a ranking within each of the fairy tales. This makes it easier sometimes to see, because if I go back to the numbers, it's really hard to just view in one glance, like, where are the differences? But if I go to the ranks, you can see quite easily that here I have, in the Frog Prince, she is ranked number 4, and in Hans im Lack, it doesn't appear that the word she appears very often. From these word frequency tables, if you want to look deeper into any of these, let's see, where were we? If I want to look, have a closer look at the word king and where it appears, you can right click and say, show me the search results. It opens up, and now I have all of the 61 hits for king in all of the documents, and I can read through them and make up my mind if this is an important word in my data or not. And from here, I can also autocode this and store it in a code for later. So this is the basic of the word frequencies in MAXDictio. I'm going to move on to the next option, which is, the result will look similar, but it's of course a little different, which is word combinations. If I open up the word combinations, Again, I have a lot of these options you're now familiar with. I can search for word combinations. I can say how many words should my word combination have. I'm going to go with 3. I'll say no. I'll just look at them overall. Let's click OK and see what happens. Again, a results table open up. It looks very similar. You can see there's a lot of very similar options. But now instead of just one word, I have the word combination. So I have the little tailor is the most frequent word combination of 3 words in all of the data. In the morning, into the forest, said the fish. So now you can look at word combinations and see which ones appear the most often, which ones appear how many times. And if I had chosen those options, you could also differentiate them by document and see which combinations appear how often in which of the documents. I just want to go back to the word frequencies really quickly. Let's say none goes quickly. I said that if you lemmatize word, it groups all of the types of the words together. So if I hover over the word say, you will see that all of the findings that are in the background of the presented result say are displayed in a little tooltip. So here you can say it has says, say, saying, and said are all included in the results for say, or here had, have, has, having, had, and so on. So you always have this information in a tooltip available. Okay, now we looked at the word frequencies and the word combinations. Those gave us a list of results. Now let's look at keyword in contact, which works a little bit differently because here you have to tell MAXDay which words you're looking for. I mean, we just found out that king is kind of an interesting concept that's a little different in the document. So I could search for the word king. You can see I could also search for my dictionary and Go word list, but we'll just type in a search item right here. I can say in documents, and I can say find whole words. This is a new option, and what it means is if I do not check this box, MAXDay will look for the characters K-I-N-G, but not followed by a space or preceded by a space. So if I do not check this box, it would also find looking, checking. So whenever this word combination appears somewhere, if I'm really looking for a king, like the king and the queen, I'm going to check find whole words. And I can say how large of the context do I want to see? How many words do I want to see that follow before or after the word king? I'm going to just go with 5, click OK, and the result table opens up. Again, you have all this information up here. I have 61 hits and 6 documents. And then I have my documents up here, so I can see where it originates from. And up here, I have my keyword, king. And then I have the context of the words before the word king and after the word king. So I can see, okay, there was a king. I'm guessing the king is a pretty frequent word combination. The king's land, the king's husband. Oh, a lot of question marks after king. So this is just a word if you're, this is the tool if you're looking for a keyword in its context. You can add a keyword or you can add multiple keywords, open up this result table and really read through it. Again, everything is interactive. So if I click on a line here, MAXDay will jump to that location up here. So if this is not enough context for me, I can always go in and dig deeper into the data. Again, you could say, okay, maybe I want to code this king. Click OK. Oh, I only select one. Wait, hold on. I'm going to select all of this. Say I want to store all of my keywords for king in a new code. I can say OK. Click the whole sentence or the search item and 5 words before and after. That would make sense. It's exactly what we're looking for. Auto code. And now, if this was an interesting finding to me, I have stored it in a new code up here. This is the one I didn't mean to create. And then if I go in here, you can have all of the combinations with king directly coded in the text, if that's what you want to do. Another tool that's also looking at words in context is the interactive word tree. I have to select which documents I want to include. I'm just going to include all of them by dragging them into this window, and I click OK, and you'll see the interactive word tree opening up. And it gives me kind of similar information than the keyword in context table that we just had, but this time it's visually presented in this tree form with branches. At the moment, I can see the most frequent word combination in all of my data, the, little, and the, king, and then followed by the words that follow the most frequently on that word combination. So I can see the little tailor was, went, and so on. Those are just combinations that appear quite often. And up here, I can see another branch saying the king, and so on. Up here, I have a few options on how the data is presented. At the moment, we're going from the word as the root start, and the branches go from the root. You could also go the other way around. You can go towards the word, or you can place the most frequently used word in the middle, and then have the branches go to and from the word. Now, the is not really the most interesting thing here in this data, so I can just type something else in here. Let's go with king again, and then you have more information about the king and in what context the word king appears in the fairy tales than before. If I click on another word, it will be added to the search term. So if I click on and, I now have just the branches for the combination king and. If I go back, and here on the right is all of the text and the data that is included in the word tree, and everything displayed at the moment is highlighted in yellow. And if I want to take a closer look at something, I can right click and say view this in the document browser, and then the same data is displayed in the document browser, so I can read more about this here. So this is the interactive word tree. Of course, you can take a screenshot of it and use it in any presentation or report later on. The last word-based tool is the word matrix browser. If you're familiar with the code matrix browser, it's a similar tool, but instead of looking for code frequencies, you can look for words and say, how often do these words appear in my data? Let's just add king, queen, because these are words that appear often in fairy tales, princess, and click OK. I have all of these options, but you could play with them and you'll probably understand them quite easily. Now I have a word matrix browser that shows me not a results table, but just a visual presentation. So I have the words I entered, happy, merry, joy, king, queen, princess. I have all of the documents. And then for each time where the document and the word crosses the lines, you can see with these squares how often that word appears in these documents. So it's quite easy to see that the king plays a bigger role in the gold bird and the little tailor than it does in Jorinde und Grendel or in Hansel and Gretel. And of course, it's interactive. So I have 21 search hits here for the gold bird and king. If I double click, I get a table that shows me all of the places where this appears. If I click once more, it jumps to MAXDictio and tells me where exactly this appears in the original data. So those were the tools about the word frequencies and the keyword combination and the word combinations. Those are all found up here. Now let's take a look at the dictionary-based analysis. The dictionaries work differently as you're not going in to just explore the data freely. You're telling MAXDictio which words to look for. If I click on the dictionary here, the dictionary manager opens up. All of my dictionaries are up here. I can create new dictionaries. I could create one for MAXDAYS, for example, and then I can create different categories of words and then add search items. Let's take a look at the fairy tales dictionary that I already prepared. For the fairy tales, looked at frequently occurring words and subjects and found that there's a lot of animals and humans and places that are mentioned in the fairy tales. So I created categories for animals and then added different types of animals as search items. So you have the sheep, the beast. I mean, it could also be a magical creature, but you have the horse, a bird, a fox, and so on. And what this feature will allow me to do is to look for animals across all of my data instead of looking for fish, bird, horse, and so on. So I create my own group of words. I name them animals, and then I tell MAXDictio to look for animals in the text. And using my predefined work of animals, I can then see how many animals and how many humans appear in the text. Here for the humans, I have created subcategories for the royal family, all of the roles that they can have. Then I made one for females, one for male words, just to see how they appear. And then there's also places. But this is just an example. You can create your own categories here. You can also always say, okay, I'm not really interested in this gender aspect right now, so let's remove this, deactivate it for the moment. And once you've set up your dictionary, you can go up here and say, now please run a dictionary-based content analysis. Again, I have the options that you're now familiar with. I can say, do you want to look at each document separately, or do you want to look at your document groups? I'll look at each of my documents separately. I can count words only once. Like I have all of these options, but I'm just going to click OK to show you what the result looks like for the default options. Now I have my documents here on the left. These are all of the fairy tales. I can see how many words are analyzed. And then I can see how many times does any of the animals that I added to that group appears. As you can see here, the golden bird has a lot more animals mentioned than Rapunzel. I mean, it makes sense if you know the fairy tales, but you can also use this for different types. Like a typical example would be if you're maybe you're doing market research and you want to know if comments that are posted on Twitter are which type of features do they mention for your software, for example. So if I took a look at what did people say on Twitter about MAXDictio, I would say the things that I'm looking for, like intuitive, fast, easy, powerful, group them as positive words, and then I would find negative words like slow, freeze, and so on, all the words that that I would define as negative in the sense. Then I would run this across all of the data and then find out a lot more people say the positive things than the negative things. You can do the same for book reviews or movie reviews or any type of data where you have a predefined group of words and you just want to know how many times does any of the words in these groups appear in my data. So let's go back here to the example. So I have all of the animals. If I right click on the cell again, I can look at the search results. Do I want all of the categories? Yeah, I do. And then I have all of the times that any of the search results appear in the golden bird. Up here, I can also say I want to not have the frequencies, but a percentage. So for all of the words from my list that were found at the golden birds, how large is the percentage that talks about animals? And then you can see 60% of the words that I had added in MAXDictio in the golden birds were animals. Of course, this you have to create your dictionaries for the feature to make sense, because of course it's unfairly if I create a lot of words for animals, MAXDictio is going to find a lot more words than for other categories. Or if I go for the column percentage, you can say of all of the findings for animals, where are they located? So 30% of all of the hits for animals, any type of animal, are in the golden bird, and only those many are in Rapunzel. You can look for happiness. You can see, okay, which fairy tales are the happiest? Which ones do I want to read at the moment? And which ones do I not want to read at the moment? And you have how many pairs of the royal family and places appear. From here, you have options that you can take if you think that these results are good. First, you can transform all of these results into document variables. So for each of the document, you would create a variable called animals, and it would be added to the document variables, and you can continue to use this for any quantitative analysis that you have planned. Let's go back to here. Or I can say, please create codes for this. So I want to store all of the findings for all of these categories in codes. I can select which ones. I click OK. I can select the usual autocode options. Do I want just a search item or maybe the sentence? In this case, I'm going to go with the whole sentence that has any of the words of happiness in here. I click on autocode and a new code called MAXDictio is created. You can see it down here, MAXDictio. And then it has a subcode for each of these categories that I created and has coded all of the words that appear in these categories in all of the texts. So now I can go in and say, show me what's happy in Hans and Luck. Go to my retrieve segments window. And now I have all of the sentences where in Hans and Luck, any of the words that I defined as happiness appear. Merry as I am, I seem so happy to work, sparkled for joy. So this is just a nice way to go about this. Then if this is not enough, you also want to have this as a matrix browser, I can go in here and say, show me a category matrix browser for all of my documents and have the same information, but again, presented in a more visual way in this code matrix browser, export it in all different types that you want to, and send it to QDT to add your notes, and then come to your conclusions about what this means and how do you want to present your results from these MAXDictio. Just as a last stop up here, the language options. I already mentioned that if you're working with Japanese text, this is where you can tell MAXDictio to look for the very specific rules how Japanese text is divided into words. You can set that option here or go back to the standard option up here. Yeah, that was my overview about MAXDictio. Just remember, we were looking at frequencies, so just how often does a word appear in the data? Then you had the word combinations. How often do combinations of words appear? Then we had a few tools about keywords and context, where you're looking for a word and you found out information about that word, either in a table view or in a tree view. And up here, all of the options for the dictionaries, where you create your own dictionaries for different topics, add your own search items, combine them into different folders, and then tell MAXDA to look for the group of words and not for just the words themselves. Okay, I'm a little slower by 3 minutes than I wanted to, but let me just drag my chat window over here and see which questions I might have missed in the chat and in the Q&A. But as I can see, my colleague Eikokul is already active and already has replied to many of them. Let's see. Oh, there's a question about Twitter analysis. Can this work with Twitter analysis? We have different tools in the Twitter analysis window that might be more useful depending on the case. I mean, if you go into Twitter analysis, you have the word frequencies, you have the word cloud, you can filter by most frequent words, you can actually use the stop list and for Twitter. So you can use this. Of course, you can use this for Twitter. It's not as easy. You just have to think about the different type of the data, because Twitter is a large table with all of the tweets, while here you have each of the data corpuses is its own document. So it's just a few things to think about, but yeah, you can use this with Twitter data. Then here's, does this work well with other languages? Especially those written in not Latin characters. I mean, I personally do not have experience this, but I've never heard any complaints, because MAXDA doesn't really care about the text that you feed into the document browser. If you write Arabic text in here, it just looks for a string of characters followed by a space and followed by the characters that you can define yourself. So it will just look for the most frequently occurring string of characters in any language. It doesn't matter if it's not English. Blah, blah, blah. Here's a question: how do you look at the word frequencies just for one person? I'm guessing that this is the question is probably leading towards more of focus groups. This example doesn't have a focus group, but let's pretend you have an interview with multiple people that are interacting, and you have used the MAXDA focus group features to automatically recognize different speakers, and each of them is coded with a different word. So you can easily just go to the code, activate the document, and activate the person. So you just have that person's speech, just everything that person said in the retrieved segments, and then you can use in the dictionary here, you can use the retrieved segments window. So you can actually use this for any type of just one part of your data. If you've coded something with, this is what I want to analyze, activate that code, activate that data, and then use the word frequencies just for the retrieved segments. Of course, also, you can always go to the word frequencies very easily with the word cloud. The word cloud is technically a visual tool, so I didn't mention it, but it's a word frequency-based visual tool. So if I right click and I say create a word cloud, you get the most frequently used words in that interview or in that fairy tale in a word cloud. You can say lematize, you can apply a stop list if you'd like. And from here, you can also open up the word frequencies. So the word frequencies are not just found in MAXDictio, but MAXDictio is the only place where you can use it for multiple documents at the same time or differentiate between document sets and so on. From the word cloud, you can also use it for multiple words if you use it for document group. So here's a different way into the word frequencies. Let me just see if I open it up. It has almost the same options. It's a little different. Can I send the word frequency table to QTT? You cannot yet. I mean, those are really long tables, so maybe. Here, use this feature up here to make a feature wish and to explain how you would use this, because it's a really long table. But of course, you can collect tables in QTT and then write something about it. But it's not possible yet. You can export it to Excel. You can export it as a document, an RTF. So there's always ways out of any of these results to export them into different formats, but not the QTT at the moment. In the word frequency, can I choose? I think I showed this in the word frequency. Can you also go to the row percentage and so on? No, it's not available here. What you can do in the word frequencies is you can switch to the ranking, as I showed you, and you can also switch to, if you just want to, you can binarize this view. So you can say, I only want to see if the word appears at all or not. So those are the options available here. You can also limit this by adding how often, setting up like the base layer of how often the word has to appear. And you can limit it to like the top 10 if you want to limit yourself, or the top 25 if you want to have a more focused view on the results table. Analyzing the text, it would be interesting to represent word combinations in the word cloud. Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? Let's see. I click OK. Oh, hold on. What did I do? Word combinations by documents, 3. Did I limit something? No. Click OK. So here are my word combinations, and here's the little word cloud icon. And if I click on it, it creates a word cloud with the most frequent word combinations. So that was an easy one to answer. Yes, you can. Okay, I'm going to head over to the chat. Is it possible to do something close to topic analysis? So here's a question if you can use this for topic analysis. I'm not a method expert on topic analysis, but I'm guessing you are. I mean, it kind of is a topic analysis if you create a dictionary for each of your topics and then you let MAXDictio run through and say, how often does this topic appear in MAXDictio? It's not automatic. You have to add your own words, but for many topics, you probably find lists online of like, what are all the words for this? And oh God, the second question, I'm not able to answer. Is it possible to use phrases such as bigrams when you create your own dictionary? Ah, you mean if you, can you enter more than one words into the dictionaries? Let's see, what's groundhog? Yeah, you can. And then you can just add a string of words in here, if that makes sense. Session Q&A. So I hope I'm not missing. There's a lot of things going on here. How do we interpret the word cloud results correctly? Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, if you right click on a text and you create the word cloud, you have all these options up here. So you can go through the options, make sure you're seeing what you want to see. How many words do you want? I want more words. What's going on? Let me create a word cloud for all of my documents. I mean, MAXDictio doesn't tell you how to interpret the data. Hey, I want all of my words. Okay. Oh, well, this is a little too big. Alone. Maybe apply stop list. I mean, so what MAXDictio tells you is just the facts. This is a visualization of which words appear the most frequently across all of the data. And you can go in here, you can actually modify this list. So if you say, God is not a word that's interesting to me, you can right click and say add it to stop list, and then it's excluded. So you can go in here, you can modify the word list if it's not displaying what you wanted it to display because the rules that you set yourself weren't correct yet. You can go in here and lematize. You can say, you can set case sensitivity or not. You can add more characters to cut off. But then at the end, it's just telling you an answer to the question that you're asking. And then it's up to you to judge if that information is something that's easy to interpret or if like there's still a mistake somewhere in there. Oftentimes, if you code something, you go into the results, you'll find, oh, wait, that was a wrong thought, and you'll go in and you correct it. So it's really not that MAXDictio can tell you more than these are the most frequently used words in the data that you told me to look at. That's how you interpret the word cloud, but you have to make sure that you just take a look at which options you've set here. Because if you've lemmatized the words, suddenly you have a smaller number of different words because each of the words now includes multiple types, multiple words. But again, everything is interactive. So if I click on set, a results table opens up where I can read through all of the occurrences of set and then make up my own mind. Okay, going back to chat. Yeah. Oh yeah, here. Thanks, Matthew. Matthew Luxon is adding an answer about the interpretation. Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I missed that part. If something appears more often, it might be more important to the data, but that's not easy to say for all types of data, just as a general rule. You always have to go in and take a look at what it says. Okay, I hope you all now have just a basic understanding of everything that MAXDictio has to offer. I know it's quite a lot of tables and it's just very similar places, but then a little bit different. So you can just go into the example project MaxVA and just play around with it. If you use the free trial version of MaxVA, it has MaxDictio included. So if you're at the beginning and you're not really sure if you need this tool or not, you can just take a look at all the features and then decide later on. But I hope you'll enjoy using it, and I hope you enjoyed this session. And maybe I'll see you later in a different session again. Have a great rest of the conference and have fun using MaxVA. Bye bye.